Cougar Sports Saturday rolls on here on this Saturday, September 13th. We're coming to you live from Broadcast House in Salt Lake City. It's a busy weekend of college football. Not many glamorous matchups in the Big 12 Conference as we take a look around the Big 12 in Week 3 action around the league. We've already got two notable games in the books in the Big 12 that took place last night. Colorado, who BYU will face 2 weeks from today in Boulder. The Buffs lose at Houston 36-20. I'm not shocked by this, Kyle. I think Houston's pretty decent this year, honestly. And Colorado, I don't think they're I was maybe a little bit more bullish on them coming into the year. I'm kind of recalibrating my expectations for Colorado. BYU should win that game in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think that Wyoming game will be interesting, but that Colorado
Wyoming game
for Colorado.
Yes.
I think I'm not talking about Utah with Wyoming. But I think that game will be interesting there on ESPN next week. Depending on how Wyoming plays today, I think that could factor into how they play against Colorado. But BYU should definitely win that game. I think after seeing the lackluster offense that Colorado has put out there through 3 games, 2 of them, they have not looked impressive in at all. And I think that BYU showed what kind of a defensive performance they can put up against them with even a better defense this year than they had against them in the Alamo Bowl.
What's so weird, though, about college football, it's you can't do it like this and size up teams this way because teams change week after week. But Colorado lost to Georgia Tech in the season opener, barely lost to them. Georgia Tech right now is up 21-14 with 9 minutes to go on Clemson, who I thought Clemson could be a national title contender. It's so hard to gauge these teams anymore in college football. It's just difficult, but Colorado takes the L. Houston, here's a crazy thought. Could Houston be this year's Arizona State?
It's a possibility. I mean,
They look good.
They've got the money behind that program, too, to become a power in this conference. I think that's something that has to be, a main factor when you look at how teams can be built out in the current NIL era of what college football is today. Houston 3-0 to start the season. I like what the Cougars have been, even as an American program. I thought that they were one of those games that I liked BYU scheduling Houston, coming into Provo, going down to Houston, Clutch City. That game on the road for Colorado last night, I wonder how much they just need to get back at home, get some things settled, figure out what that quarterback position looks like for the Buffs going into the conference schedule. And then you've got last night another game. You had K-State playing Arizona. Not a conference game, even though it's conference matchup there. K-State, Mitch, they look bad. That team is night and day different than what they were a season ago, falling to Arizona on the road 23-17. I think Arizona looks pretty good, though. Noah Fafita, going into the portal, coming back to Arizona. They've got some consistency now, it seems like, to start off the year. I wonder how they'll fare in Big 12 play.
Yeah, I think Arizona could be a pleasant surprise. I mean, that October 11th game between BYU and Arizona, that could be 2 undefeated teams, potentially, between BYU and Arizona. I thought Avery Johnson last night was bad. 88 passing yards for K-State. They're 1-3, and I feel like the season's lost for K-State. I think it's over for Kansas State, to be quite honest with you. Their defense is not good. They could not stop Noah Fafita on the ground. He had 48 rushing yards, but then also Ismail Mahdi for Arizona had 189 rushing yards. K-State, I thought they were a physical defense. Coming out of Ireland, no, smoke and mirrors, man. It's not carrying over. And look, in this college football where you can have the clock, opponents can just eat up that clock with no stoppage after first downs. That's what happened to them last week against Army, where they barely had the football and they lost that game. But I just think Kansas State feels like a broken team right now. That Ireland deal, whatever happens to the team that loses in Ireland, it's a curse, man, because Kansas State looks nothing like the program we've kind of been accustomed to since BYU joined the Big 12. They're off to a 1-3 start. Some other games in action right now. It's light in the morning slate. Samford and Baylor. Baylor hosting Samford. This was kind of interesting early on. Baylor jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Then Samford scored 14-7. And then Samford was on the move inside the red zone. They had a turnover, and Baylor needed some, flags from the refs to extend a drive. Baylor kind of struggled early. Now they're up big on Samford. Some other games to kind of keep an eye on. Texas Tech hosts Oregon State. They will take on the Beavs in Lubbock. It'll be maybe is there going to be a look ahead possibly for Texas Tech before they host or before they take on Utah next week up the road here in Salt Lake, which just got announced today. That's going to be big noon kickoff, 10 a.m. kick in Salt Lake for the Red Raiders and Utes. And then West Virginia, backyard brawl against Pitt. Any other games catch your attention on this week's slate around the Big 12?
Yeah, we talked about Utah going up the road to Wyoming, playing there in Laramie. Revival of sorts for the WAC and Mountain West days. Utes versus Cowboys there. I think that the Texas State Arizona State game tonight will be one that I'll watch. I like the late games, Mitch. I like, especially if my dream scenario is like a BYU game at 1:00. Get home, wrap up the post game, and then you just enjoy the evening. Going into what is it like the midnight 1:00 games that you stay up late because I've got the adrenaline rush still. So even Texas State, Arizona State will be a game to watch there late. But yeah, I think that one of the things, Mitch, that I a couple weeks into the season now am feeling is just I just am ready for conference play. I'm ready to get into a flow. We talked about this off there. It's just like the slow ramp up period with the non-conference getting into Big 12 play because BYU fans are so used to having big non-conference games to start off the season. There's a lot of hype. There's the big matchups that you'll have. You'll have these NFL stadium games. You'll have like a Wisconsin. Those games that people are excited about in September, and then the November slate ends up being terrible. It's like a reverse now. So it's really just managing expectations for what a season is as the ramp up period builds into Big 12 play.
When you look ahead at BYU's schedule, they've got East Carolina next week, 5:30 kick. We will be in Greenville, North Carolina, both you and I. We'll get Cougar Sports Saturday rolling at high noon from Greenville, North Carolina next week, kickoff at 5:30. Then at Colorado, 8:15 p.m. on September 27th. Then General Conference weekend, BYU hosts West Virginia on the Friday before General Conference, 8:30 p.m. But then it gets interesting. October 11th all the way to TCU on November 15th. That is a gauntlet for BYU in Big 12 play. You've got Arizona, Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU. All those teams right now are currently undefeated. 3 of them are currently ranked. Arizona, maybe they could be knocking on the door of the rankings this week. TCU blew the doors off North Carolina. They've only played 1 game so far this season, but that's going to be a stretch, man. That is going to be as tough of a 5-game stretch maybe in the history of BYU football, because that will be week after week. That'll test BYU like no other. And then even that 6th game, Cincinnati on the road. Cincinnati, pretty decent too. It's going to ramp up, but I do believe, Kyle, that BYU could jump out to a 5-0 start. I think that's very manageable. East Carolina, they should be a favorite, big favorite next week. I think they're going to be a favorite at Colorado. West Virginia is a mess right now. They lost their star running back, Jaheim White. So I think BYU's in a good spot to really get things rolling. And then at Arizona, October 11th is really when the season ramps up. They're all of these games are huge. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that 5-game stretch from October 11th to November 15th is going to be as taxing of a stretch that BYU's probably ever had, at least in the Kalani era. There's been some, I go back to the days of Ty Detmer with that season 91 where they opened up with, I think it was Penn State, UCLA, Florida State, insane stretch. When UCLA was UCLA, when it wasn't this Deshaun Foster nonsense where they're terrible, when they were actually good. But yeah, this will be a good schedule for BYU that'll test them. So this notion that, it's the weakest schedule in the Big 12, no, it's clearly shown to be much more difficult than people realized.
Yeah, you've got, if you mentioned those games there, you've got 4 of them on the road. If you include Cincinnati, you've also got the Utah game in the mix there. I think the big key for BYU is to maintain momentum as you get into that stretch, because you don't want it to be like 2023 where they end the season on a 5-game losing streak. But we're up against it. We're going to come back and we're going to hear a little bit more about this Big 12 conference. You're listening to Cougar Sports Saturday, powered by KSL Sports.